Good morning and welcome back to BIFA TV, your daily dose of industry information. Today's episode is once again What the Papers Say, and we're joined by Ian Matheson for this week's headlines. So Ian, thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, Brooke. Last weekend, the USA launched an operation in the Strait of Hormuz aimed at guiding stranded commercial vessels out of that conflict zone. The reports I've read say that the US flagged ships completed guided transits, even as fresh attacks and industry warnings underscore the risk of renewed danger. It was dubbed Project Freedom by Donald Trump, but it remains to be seen if this initiative is going to be the start of a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Shipping companies don't appear to be treating Project Freedom as a turning point. There are many unanswered questions, particularly whether Iran will tolerate transits conducted under US protection alone. And of course, there are other issues. There's mine clearance, security guarantees, and broader de-escalation of tensions.
It's definitely a wait-and-see type of situation still, isn't it?
Absolutely, Brooke, yeah. Staying with container shipping, meanwhile, analysts say the industry is suffering from what's being called a long COVID effect. Of course, that refers to the lasting impact of the pandemic on capacity. Years afterwards, fleets are still absorbing excess ships at a relatively slow pace, and I understand it's 5% annually. And the result, of course, is a structural shift. Instead of shortages like we saw during the pandemic, there's now a persistent surplus of vessels, and that means a new normal where unused capacity remains in the system, reshaping how shipping lines manage supply and demand.
Yeah, and when we're looking at the rate side of things, how does that impact them?
Well, the oversupply is already having an impact. Composite global container freight rates have now fallen for the third consecutive week. According to the latest data, prices are under pressure due to weak demand and too many ships chasing too little cargo. Even geopolitical tensions and higher fuel costs haven't been enough to push rates up. Shipping lines, of course, are responding by cancelling sailings, but capacity is still expected to rise on key trade routes.
And moving on slightly, is the Middle East, is it still continuing to affect air cargo?
Yes, Brooke, absolutely. According to IATA, air freight demand has taken a hit largely due to ongoing conflict in the Middle East. The disruption is affecting major cargo hubs and reducing available capacity, especially across key global routes. And while some goods are shifting from sea to air, IATA reported that overall demand weakened in March year on year as instability disrupted trade flows.
And is there anything else that you've got for us for today's episode?
Yeah, Brooke, I have. Events in the Middle East remind us that global supply chains are physical, exposed, and deeply intertwined with the wider world economy. And disruption in one region now reverberates rapidly across markets, industries, and societies. And that's energy flows, commodity prices, inflationary pressures, and trade routes are all being affected. And of course, shipping sits at the centre of this system. And when maritime trade is disrupted, the consequences are felt far beyond the sector itself. Sadly, the seafarers who keep trade moving are too often, they remain invisible, I think, until something goes wrong. I was actually quite pleased to stumble upon a new short film called Fair Seas, which has been produced by BIMCO. And it's actually designed to humanise seafarers and bring their reality into clearer focus. The film itself avoids statistics and slogans. It puts a human face to global trade and shows the pride, resilience and professionalism of the seafarers who help keep the world supplied. And of course, I encourage viewers to watch it. I think they'll find it very interesting.
Certainly, yeah, it looks like a good watch. And like you said, it's a bit of positive news on that as well. So we'll leave a link to that in the description.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Brooke. Now, finally, for this week, the Breakbulk News website carries a report that there is a growing crisis in heavy lift air cargo logistics. Apparently only a handful of the Antonov AN-124 aircraft are currently available to serve Western markets, and that's just 4 I've read. These planes are obviously critical for transporting oversized cargo like energy equipment and industrial machinery, but with limited supply and no quick replacement, experts are warning that shortage could last for up to a decade. And of course, that's going to create serious bottlenecks for industries that rely on moving massive, high value components by air into remote regions.
Of course, yeah. And as always, there's a lot for our members to think about. It might not all be the best news, but it's all worth use. So thank you so much, Ian, for this update.
No problem, Brooke. It's always a pleasure.
As always, the links to all of the reports and the articles that we've discussed in today's episode will be in the description below. That's all for today's edition of BIFA TV, your daily dose of industry information.